Nobody talks about this, but your intuition is quietly destroying your life. Most people think intuition is a gift, a kind of secret superpower that lets you see what others can't. But what if I told you that the very thing you rely on to guide you is also the reason you feel so isolated, misunderstood, and exhausted? Maybe you've felt it already. You walk into a room and instantly know who's lying, not because of what they say, but because something deeper whispers the truth. You sense hidden motives, unspoken resentments, futures that haven't happened yet. But every time you try to share it, people look at you like you're crazy. If this sounds familiar, you're not imagining it. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists in history, spent decades studying people exactly like you. He called them intuitive introverts, and he warned that their minds were both a rare gift and a dangerous curse. In this video, you'll uncover the 3 invisible traps that almost every intuitive introvert falls into, and why most never find a way out. Stay with me, because understanding these traps could be the first step to finally making peace with your own mind. 1. The unique perception of intuitive introverts. Imagine this. You are sitting across from someone you barely know. They're smiling politely, making casual conversation about work or the weather, but you feel something deeper, a heaviness, a strange tension in the air that nobody else notices. You keep thinking, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm imagining things, but a week later, the truth comes out, and everything you felt was real. This is what it's like to be an intuitive introvert. You're not just reading body language. You're absorbing hidden stories that people never say out loud. A woman once shared that she always knew when her friends were pretending to be happy. She could feel the sadness under their words like a cold wind, even when they laughed. She said it felt like carrying a secret she never wanted and never asked for. If you relate, you're not alone. Carl Jung spent decades studying people like you. He called this gift introverted intuition, the ability to sense patterns and motives before anyone else sees them. But he also warned that it's one of the most difficult gifts to live with. Because while other people are content with facts, you are always searching for meaning. You walk into a room, and you don't just see what is happening, you see what is about to happen. You sense which relationships are breaking, which projects are doomed, which people are pretending. That constant awareness can feel like standing on a cliff, always waiting for something to crack. Sometimes you try to share what you sense. You tell a coworker to be careful around a charming manager who feels dangerous. You warn a friend that their partner is hiding something. Usually they smile and dismiss you. Later, when your intuition proves right, they say you were lucky or paranoid. But you know it was neither. It was the same quiet knowing that has followed you all your life. This is why so many intuitive introverts end up feeling isolated. You carry a private reality that nobody else believes. Over time, it gets easier to stay silent. You tell yourself it's safer not to say anything. You nod and smile while, inside, you feel the weight of all the things you can't share. The problem is, the silence becomes its own burden. The insights don't stop. The visions don't pause. The more you ignore them, the heavier they get. But here's what I want you to remember. Your mind is not broken. It's simply tuned to a deeper frequency. You're not just sensitive, you're perceptive. And that perception can be a strength if you learn to work with it instead of fighting it. So, how do you start? First, practice daily grounding. Spend a few minutes every morning focusing only on what you can see, touch, and hear. Feel the ground under your feet. Breathe slowly. Notice how your body feels in the chair. This helps anchor you to the present so you don't get lost in the currents of intuition. Second, give yourself permission not to fix everything. Just because you sense someone is hurting doesn't mean you have to rescue them. Repeat to yourself, "I notice this, but it is not my responsibility." This simple phrase can free you from carrying pain that isn't yours. Third, learn to name what you sense without judgment. When you feel a hidden tension, say silently to yourself, "This feels heavy," or "This feels dishonest." Naming it gives you space between the feeling and your reaction. That space is where your power lives. It's easy to think you're alone, but you're not. All over the world, there are people waking up with the same quiet knowing, wondering if they are too sensitive or too strange. You are part of that hidden community. People who see the blueprint before the house is built. People who sense the storm before the clouds appear. If you felt overwhelmed by this gift, stay with me. In the next part, we're going to explore something even more challenging: the disconnect from concrete reality, and how it can slowly erode your sense of self if you don't learn to anchor your awareness. Take a deep breath. You've spent your whole life walking between two realities. Now it's time to learn how to stand firmly in both without losing yourself. 2. The disconnect from concrete reality. Have you ever looked around a room and felt like you were watching a play you weren't part of? Everyone else seems absorbed in what's happening. The meeting agenda, the lunch plans, the tiny details of daily life. But your mind is somewhere else. It's drifting through layers of meaning, noticing hidden connections no one else can see. This isn't daydreaming. It's more like you're living in two worlds at once. And that split can quietly tear you apart. I remember reading a post from a man who said he always felt like a ghost at family gatherings. While everyone was joking and eating, he was caught in the undercurrent of unspoken resentment. He noticed the forced smiles, the small betrayals, the way people said one thing and meant something else. After a while, he started to feel disconnected from everything solid. He wrote that it was like standing behind a sheet of glass, watching life happen without him. This is the hidden cost of having introverted intuition as your dominant function. You're so attuned to the symbolic world that the concrete world starts to feel unimportant or even unreal. Jung described this as an extraordinary aloofness. You become an observer rather than a participant. And while that sounds poetic, it's actually exhausting. You wake up each day feeling like you're drifting further away from ordinary life. If you've ever felt that sense of drifting, you are not alone. Many intuitive introverts share this struggle. In fact, psychologists have found that people with dominant intuition often report feeling detached from their own bodies. They forget to eat, lose track of time, and struggle to stay engaged with practical tasks. Some researchers even call this state derealization, a feeling that the world around you isn't fully real. But you are not broken. Your mind simply moves differently. It explores patterns and possibilities that most people never consider. That is a strength, but it comes with a price. You have to learn how to pay that price without losing yourself. So what can you do to stay grounded? First, you can create small daily rituals that connect you back to your body. Every morning, spend 1 minute pressing your feet firmly into the floor. Feel the pressure. Notice the temperature of the surface. Take 3 deep breaths. This simple act can remind you that you exist in a physical space, not just in your thoughts. Second, use intentional sensory anchors throughout your day. One woman shared that she wears a smooth stone necklace and holds it when she feels herself drifting. The texture brings her back to the present. You could try carrying something similar, a small object that feels comforting and real. So far, we've talked about how intuition pulls you away from reality and how small rituals can help you reconnect. In a moment, I'll share one more step that can keep you centered even when your mind wants to wander. Third, practice naming what is actually happening around you. When you feel lost in thoughts, say out loud, "I am sitting in my chair. I am drinking my coffee. I am here right now." This technique is called orienting, and it has been shown to reduce anxiety and increase presence. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. The goal is not to shut down your intuition, it's to balance it. You deserve to feel connected to deeper meaning and anchored in everyday life. You don't have to choose one or the other. In the next part, we're going to look at something even more challenging. What happens when the symbolic world becomes so vivid that you start to believe every image and idea is a message meant just for you? This is where intuition can cross the line into confusion and even suffering. Take a breath. You've already come so far in understanding yourself. You have the courage to keep going, and by learning to stay connected to reality, you're building the foundation to use your gift without letting it consume you. If this video is helping you see things differently, please share it with someone you care about. It could be a small gift that makes their day a little lighter. 3. Psychological traps. Archetypal inflation. Have you ever caught yourself thinking you were meant for something bigger than anyone else could see? Maybe it started as a quiet feeling that your insights were special. You noticed connections no one else could name. You felt the pull of something vast and ancient. At first, this felt empowering, like you were chosen to understand truths that others were too distracted to grasp. One man on a forum described the moment this shift happened to him. He had always sensed patterns in people's behavior, the hidden stories behind their actions. But over time, he began to believe he wasn't just observing these patterns, he was somehow part of a larger mission to reveal them. He said it was like being pulled into a story where he was the wise guide and everyone else was still asleep. This is where the trap begins. Jung called it archetypal inflation. When you spend so much time swimming in the symbolic realm, it's easy to lose your sense of proportion. You start to identify with the archetypes themselves, the hero, the sage, the prophet, the healer. Instead of being a person who perceives these energies, let's pause for a moment. If you've ever felt this swelling sense of importance, you're not alone. Jung warned that this is one of the most seductive dangers intuitive introverts face, because the perceptions are often real. You really do see things others miss. You do feel connections to something bigger. But the ego starts to feed on that truth, and soon you can't tell the difference between genuine insight and self-importance. This trap doesn't just make you feel special, it can isolate you even further. You start to feel like no one can understand you, because you're carrying a secret knowledge too heavy for ordinary people. Over time, this belief can grow into a kind of quiet superiority. You withdraw, convinced that no one else is capable of meeting you where you are. But here's the good news. You don't have to stay stuck in this pattern. There are practical ways to ground yourself and keep your insights humble and clear. Step 1 is to practice regular reality checks. When you have a powerful perception or vision, ask yourself simple questions. Is this useful right now? Is this about me or about something bigger? Does this help me connect with others or push me away? These questions act like anchors, pulling you back to your everyday self. Step 2. is to stay connected to people who keep you honest. Find friends or mentors who aren't afraid to question you when you start sounding too certain. A woman in a support group once said that her best friend was the only person who could look her in the eye and say, "You might be over-identifying with this idea." That single conversation saved her months of confusion. Step 3 is to create something from your insights instead of just holding them. Write them down, paint them, share them in a way that helps others rather than sets you apart. When you translate your perceptions into something tangible, it shrinks them back down to human size. Let's take a breath together. This is a lot to carry. It's easy to feel ashamed when you realize your ego has gotten tangled up with your intuition. But it happens to almost everyone who has this gift. You're not failing, you're learning. Remember, the goal is never to stop perceiving these deep patterns. It's to stay humble enough to see them clearly. You are still you, a person with limits, flaws, and gifts, not a character in some cosmic drama. So far, we've explored how archetypal inflation can quietly take over your identity. We've looked at ways to keep your feet on the ground, even when your mind is reaching for the sky. In a moment, we'll go deeper into the next psychological trap: psychic contamination. This is when your sensitivity becomes so open that you can't tell the difference between your own emotions and everyone else's pain. Stay with me, because understanding this next pattern could be the key to protecting your energy and finally feeling safe in your own mind. You've come this far, and you have the strength to keep going. 4. Psychological traps. Psychic contamination. Sometimes it starts so quietly you don't even notice. You're having coffee with a friend, listening to them talk about a fight with their partner. You nod, offer support, try to be helpful. But as the minutes pass, your chest feels tight, your stomach sinks. By the time you leave, it feels like their sadness has wrapped itself around your body. This is more than empathy. This is what Jung called psychic contamination, the second major trap that intuitive introverts often fall into. Because your mind is so open to unconscious signals, you don't just feel for people, you feel as them. A man once wrote that he couldn't even visit his family without coming home overwhelmed. His sister's anxiety would turn into his own. His mother's bitterness would cling to his thoughts for days. He said it felt like he was a sponge, soaking up every feeling no one else wanted to deal with. If you've ever wondered why you feel so tired after simple interactions, this might be why. You're absorbing emotions that don't belong to you. Over time, this can make you question who you even are. When everything you feel is tangled up with everyone else's pain, your own identity starts to fade. Let's pause here for a second. Take a breath. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are simply wired to feel more. But even a gift needs boundaries. So far, we've talked about how your sensitivity can blur the line between compassion and self-sacrifice. The good news is, you can learn to care deeply without carrying everything. Step 1 is to notice when you start merging with someone's feelings. When you sense a heavy emotion, ask yourself, did I feel like this before we started talking? That question alone can give you perspective. Step 2 is to practice energetic release after every draining interaction. Some people visualize putting all the emotions they picked up into a box and closing the lid. Others wash their hands or take a shower as a ritual to reset their energy. Find the practice that works for you and make it a habit. Step 3 is to reclaim your own space. One woman shared that she keeps a small notebook in her bag. When she leaves a conversation, she writes down how she feels in her own words. Over time, this helps her see what belongs to her and what doesn't. Remember, you don't have to shut yourself off to protect your heart. You just need clear edges around your compassion. You can be present without disappearing. In the next part, we'll explore why this pattern can become so addictive. When you're always needed, it feels like you have a purpose, but that sense of purpose can quietly steal your life. Take another breath. You're doing something powerful right now. Learning to honor your sensitivity while keeping your center strong. You deserve to feel the world without being swallowed by it. Soon, we'll look at the final psychological trap. What happens when you start confusing symbolic visions with literal truth? This is where intuition can cross into dangerous territory. Understanding this pattern could be the key to protecting your mind. Stay with me. You have already come so far, and you have everything it takes to keep going. 5. Psychological traps. Possession by the unconscious. It usually starts slowly. Maybe you have a vivid dream that feels so real it shakes you. Maybe you start noticing repeating numbers or symbols in your daily life. At first it seems harmless, like a secret language only you can understand. But little by little, those symbols begin to feel more real than anything else. You start to believe that every coincidence is a message just for you. One man described it this way. He said he began seeing the number 11 everywhere, on clocks, receipts, license plates. Soon he became convinced it was a sign that he had a special mission to fulfill. He stopped listening to his friends when they tried to help. He quit his job because he felt called to do something bigger. But months passed, and nothing happened. He was left feeling confused and alone, unsure if he had lost his mind. This is the final trap Jung warned about, the most dangerous of all. Possession by the unconscious. It happens when the line between symbolic reality and concrete reality dissolves. Your mind becomes so flooded with images, archetypes, and synchronicities that you lose the ability to tell what is meaningful and what is simply random. Take a deep breath. If you have ever wondered whether you are slipping too far into this world of symbols, you are not alone. Many intuitive introverts have walked this road. It does not mean you are broken. It means you need support and strategies to stay balanced. You can learn to honor your perceptions without surrendering to them. You do not have to let them run your life. Step 1 is to create anchors in your daily routine that remind you of what is real. Set aside time each day to do something that involves your body and your senses. Cook a meal and focus on each step. Work in a garden, even cleaning your space can help you return to the present moment. These small actions keep you connected to a shared reality. Step 2 is to share your thoughts with someone you trust. When you start to see signs everywhere, talk it out. Ask yourself, could this be a coincidence? Could I be projecting meaning onto something neutral? Having another perspective helps you separate genuine intuition from magical thinking. Step 3 is to limit the time you spend alone with your thoughts. When you spend too many hours without outside input, your mind can start building stories that feel true but are not grounded. Make sure you have regular activities that engage you with other people or practical tasks. Losing yourself in the world of symbols can feel comforting at first, but over time it can isolate you and blur your sense of what is real. You are not your visions. You are not your archetypes. You are a whole person who deserves to live both in meaning and in reality. You can respect the messages that come through your intuition without letting them dictate every decision. In the next part, we will explore what it looks like to finally integrate all these experiences, because there is a path forward, a way to use your gifts without letting them consume you. Take another breath. You have already proven how strong you are by being willing to look honestly at your patterns. That honesty is your greatest protection. You are learning to stand with one foot in the symbolic world and one foot in the concrete world. That balance is possible, and it is the key to feeling grounded, clear, and fully alive. Stay with me. You are closer than you think to turning this challenge into a source of wisdom and strength. If this video resonates with you, or if you see something that could be clearer or more helpful, please leave a comment and share your thoughts. Let me know what spoke to you and what I could improve. Your feedback helps me make better content for you and everyone else watching. 6. The 3-stage journey: gift, curse, and integration. Some people never realize they have a different way of seeing the world until one day something small changes everything. Maybe you predict an argument before it happens, or feel an unexplained heaviness when you meet someone new. At first, you brush it off as coincidence, but then it happens again and again. Slowly, you start to understand that you are wired to pick up what others miss. This is the beginning of the 3-stage journey Jung described. Stage 1 is the gift. In this stage, your perceptions feel like a secret superpower. You walk into a room and sense hidden dynamics instantly. You know who feels insecure, who is hiding something, who is about to make a choice that will change everything. You feel special, almost chosen. And in some ways you are. One woman shared that as a teenager she could always tell when her parents were fighting, even if they tried to hide it. She would feel it in her body like a cold wave. She thought everyone experienced the world this way. When she finally realized they didn't, it made her feel both proud and alone. In stage 1, your intuition feels pure and exciting. You can predict outcomes before others see the signs. You can understand people better than they understand themselves. It feels like having X-ray vision for the human soul. But over time, something starts to shift. You begin to notice that other people don't really want this level of insight. Friends grow uneasy when you see through their excuses. Partners feel exposed when you reflect their hidden motives back to them. Even though you mean well, your ability to understand others so deeply can make them uncomfortable. Gradually, you learn to keep your perceptions to yourself. You nod and smile when people tell you things you already sensed. You stop sharing your observations because you don't want to make others feel defensive. This is when stage 2 begins, and the gift slowly becomes a curse. Stage 2 is the most painful part of the journey. Your inner world is filled with visions, patterns, and meanings, but you have nowhere to put them. You feel disconnected from ordinary life. You start to wonder if you are too sensitive, too intense, too much. You begin to build a mask to protect yourself from rejection. Let's pause here. If you recognize this stage, you are not alone. Many intuitive introverts stay here for years. They learn to function on the surface while drowning inside. They feel a profound loneliness that is hard to explain to anyone who hasn't experienced it. But there is hope. Jung believed that stage 3 is possible for anyone willing to do the work. Stage 3 is integration. It is the process of learning to channel your abilities without letting them isolate you. Step 1 is to accept that your perceptions are real and valid. You are not imagining things. Your mind is simply tuned to a deeper frequency. By acknowledging this, you take the first step toward wholeness. Step 2 is to practice sharing your insights carefully. Choose trusted people who respect your sensitivity. Frame your perceptions as gentle observations rather than absolute truths. This helps you stay connected while honoring what you see. Step 3 is to balance your inner world with practical grounding. Make time for activities that keep you rooted in daily life. Cook, exercise, spend time in nature. These practices remind you that you live in both worlds, and you need both to feel whole. So far, you have learnt that the journey begins with wonder, moves through pain, and leads to integration. This is the path of the intuitive introvert. It is not an easy path, but it can become the source of your greatest wisdom. In the next part, we will explore how to build the skills that make integration possible. Because you deserve to use your gift without feeling like it will consume you. Take a deep breath. You have already come so far. You have everything you need to keep going, and with each step, you are learning to live with your sensitivity in a way that feels empowering and free. 7. Integration. Mastering the gift. Integration is the part most people never reach because it feels impossible. You wonder how you can honor your insights without letting them control you. How do you stay sensitive without losing your balance? How do you remain true to your gift without destroying your life? This is where stage 3 begins, the stage where the real work happens. Jung believed that people who reach this level become something rare. They stop being victims of their own minds and learn to become bridges between the seen and unseen. These are the individuals who transform their sensitivity into strength. They can access hidden truths that others overlook and translate them into ideas, art, or wisdom that helps the world grow. But integration is not about repeating affirmations or pretending everything is fine. It means developing 3 specific skills. These skills are what Jung called psychological technologies, and they are the keys to living with your gift in a way that feels empowering rather than overwhelming. The first skill is creating an anchor to reality. This is not about shutting down your intuition, it is about giving it a safe place to land. Jung noticed that intuitive introverts who never develop their sense of the physical world often feel lost. They float from one idea to another without anything solid to hold on to. To change this, you need daily practices that bring you back to your senses. Try a simple walking meditation where you focus on the feeling of your feet touching the ground. Cook a meal and pay attention to each smell and texture. Spend time in your garden and notice how the soil feels in your hands. These activities remind you that you have a body and that you belong in the here and now. The second skill is translating your insights into something others can understand. Many intuitive people get stuck because their perceptions stay locked inside their minds. Over time, these unshared ideas build up and become heavy. You can release that weight by expressing what you see. For some, this means making art, painting the visions that visit your thoughts. For others, it means writing stories or creating music that captures the patterns you notice in people. If you are more analytical, you might build frameworks or theories that turn your perceptions into tools others can use. Jung himself did this by creating ideas like the collective unconscious and the shadow. When you give form to what you feel, something important happens. Those insights stop being chaotic and become clear. You develop a kind of pressure valve that allows your mind to stay calm because it knows there is a way to share what it perceives. The third skill is maintaining healthy boundaries while staying open to inspiration. Jung observed that intuitive introverts often swing between being too open or completely shut down. The goal is to find a middle path. This means learning when to open yourself to new insights and when to protect your energy. You might start by visualizing a protective barrier around yourself before you enter crowded or emotional spaces. After intense interactions, take time to release what you have absorbed. Some people find it helpful to take a walk or simply sit quietly and breathe. It also helps to practice telling the difference between true intuition and thoughts that come from fear or stress. Ask yourself, is this perception calm or frantic? Does it feel grounded or anxious? Over time, you will get better at recognizing what is valuable and what is noise. Remember, you are not responsible for fixing everyone. You can see patterns in others without making them your burden. This is what Jung called developing standpoint, a stable sense of who you are, even while engaging with powerful ideas and emotions. When you practice these 3 skills, something remarkable happens. Your sensitivity stops feeling like a weakness. It becomes a real gift, not only for you, but for everyone your life touches. You become the bridge between the world of meaning and the world of action. You can see hidden patterns without getting lost in them. You can offer guidance without losing your own center. Most importantly, you stop feeling like an outsider in your own life. You discover your place. You find others who understand this journey, and you begin to live in a way that honors both your insight and your humanity. Stay with me, because learning to integrate your gift is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter where your sensitivity can finally become a force for healing, clarity, and purpose. If you recognize yourself somewhere in this journey, whether you have felt the quiet wonder of stage 1, the heavy confusion of stage 2, or the growing hope of stage 3, know that you are not alone. You are part of a small but powerful group of people who see the world in ways most never will. And while that can feel isolating, it is also a sign of how much potential you carry inside you. Remember this: your sensitivity is not a flaw that needs fixing. Your deep perceptions are not mistakes. They are gifts that, when understood and respected, can become your greatest strength. Many of the breakthroughs in psychology, creativity, and human understanding have come from people who dared to explore the spaces others avoided. People who were willing to sit with the uncertainty of their insights and find meaning where others only saw confusion. You have that same ability. The fact that you have stayed with this conversation proves that you care enough about yourself to learn, to question, and to grow. That is courage. That is the first step toward transformation. Imagine for a moment what your life could look like if you learned to trust your intuition without being consumed by it. Picture yourself waking up each day with a sense of balance and purpose. You can see the deeper layers in people and situations, but you also know how to ground yourself in the present. You can use your insights to guide and help others without losing your sense of who you are. This is the path of integration. It is not about becoming someone else. It is about finally becoming fully yourself, the person who can walk between the visible and invisible worlds without getting lost in either, the person who can hold wisdom and still feel connected to ordinary life. If you are wondering where you are in this process, take a moment to reflect. Are you in the early stage, discovering your gift and feeling both excited and uncertain? Are you in the middle, overwhelmed by everything you see and feel? Or have you started to find your way back to balance, learning how to make peace with your own mind? Wherever you are exactly where you need to be. This journey does not happen overnight. It unfolds one step at a time, and every step you take brings you closer to the calm confidence that comes from understanding yourself. If this message has resonated with you, share a moment from your own story in the comments. Tell us about a time your intuition was so clear it surprised you, or describe the hardest part about being someone who feels everything so deeply. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to feel less alone. Before you go, I invite you to keep learning. In the next video, we will explore shadow work, the powerful process Jung developed to help sensitive people face the parts of themselves they often deny. It is a topic most self-help advice gets wrong, and understanding it could change the way you relate to your mind forever. Until then, protect your sensitivity, honor your perceptions, and remember, the world needs what you see, but only if you learn to see it without losing yourself in the process.